Well, good evening, everybody. I know we're all tired and our heads are full and all of that, and our stomachs are empty probably, and you got a little buzz going with your beer ticket and everything. I know what's going on right now, and we're here to just celebrate. We're here, so thank you for coming. You could easily be at the restaurant right now, but yet you're here. That shows real dedication, and I appreciate it. My name is Nick, and I teach geology at Central Washington University, and I want to share with you some video programs that we've been making recently. That's the name of this series, and it's on PBS, public television, and mostly it's old folks who are home watching TV these days. The younger folks don't watch PBS that much anymore, but these programs get into other formats and other venues as well. So that's the main thing that we're doing tonight. I would like to share with you 8 episodes, and you're like, oh my God, 8 episodes? How long is this going to be? Each episode is like 6 minutes long, and the whole design of this series is to make these short, hopefully glossy, beautiful, sexy-looking little videos that show how wonderful Washington geology is. And so that's what we're doing, and I want to keep this as lively as possible, and so after each of the 8 episodes, so in other words, I'm going to show you a 6-minute episode, and then I want to go back and forth with you, and if you have questions about the geology, or questions about the filmmaking, or questions about the musical choice, or if you want to be a critic and you go, that one was okay, and the first one I thought was better, or I thought you were leading to something and then you never came through, and that one's dog shit, or whatever you want. It's all fine. So I want to thank Chad Pritchard, Eastern Washington University. Would you stand up, Chad? So Chad basically put this whole meeting together, and he contacted me maybe a couple of years ago and said, would you mind doing this for some sort of event on the first night? And here we are. So Chad and his team has done an amazing job with this meeting. So I want to do a couple quick things before we get to the videos, but you know that we're going to be going back and forth. That's the meat of what we're doing. So I live in Ellensburg now, and that's 3 hours west of here on I-90. It's centrally located, as the name implies, Central Washington University. I have to say this, the first time I gave a talk at a GSA meeting was here in Spokane 35 years ago, almost to the day, in mid-May of 1989. And this building wasn't here yet, but it was right across at the old convention center. And I was very nervous, and I had just finished my master's degree with Dave Rogers at Idaho State University, and I'd barely given a talk in any format. And I had my little carousel of Kodachrome slides ready to go. Some of you are nodding. And I was given the dreaded slot of 8 a.m. on the first day of the conference. So here's this huge auditorium, and I think there were maybe 12 people in the room. And I was so nervous at 8 o'clock in the morning that I think I burned through my slides in like 6 minutes. And then there were like 8 minutes of questions after the 6-minute talk. And so I remember the moderator said at the end, well, young man, I think you've learned you need to talk slower so that you don't have to get all those questions. So I mentioned this story simply because there hasn't been a meeting here in Spokane since then. So 35 years later, it's kind of a full circle thing. But the other thing is I had no interest. I was just about to graduate with a master's, and I had no idea what was happening. I was going to get married in a couple of weeks over in Jackson Hole, and beyond that, we had no idea what we were going to do. And this is a message to the young people. I almost was in tears leaving that little room, like I went too fast and I was getting grilled with all these questions I could barely answer, and I was about ready to head out to that sidewalk and just collect my thoughts, and somebody was kind of trotting up after me with a flyer, and they said, I think we need you at our school. And I turned around, I'm like, what? And he said, I'm Bill Hart from Miami of Ohio, in Oxford, Ohio, and I think we need you at our school. And I said, I'm burnt out on school. I don't want to do more school, if that's what you're talking about. He said, no, we have an instructor position. We need to find new geology majors. We need new young energy in our program, and I think you're the guy. And I'm like, after that talk, you think I'm the guy that's going to do that? He's like, 6 minutes, that's all I need. You've got it, and I want you in Oxford. And so we drove to Ohio, and we're there for 3 years, and I learned how to teach geology, and I was able to get some new majors. I'm telling you this story for a reason, by the way. And then we missed the West, and so we moved to Ellensburg, and I've been there for 32 years. And it's a beautiful town, and there's the geology building right at the foot of Mount Stewart, and I've been there a long time. And we were able to build a program and get new students, and then get a graduate program, and then finally get a new logo, a new building, with all sorts of fancy instruments on the top floor. And I'm no longer in my early 30s. And so we've had a nice vibe in the department. It's a good place, but we've had a shot of adrenaline just in the last couple of years. Building a brand new crop of students. And it is an electric place to be right now. It's mainly because of these two people. So I don't know how we did it, but we managed to get this pair of geologists to come to Ellensburg, and 2 short years later, they have created a culture that is just absolutely amazing. And the rest of us are just so thrilled that they're with us, and we are now building for the future around these two very talented people. Oh, yeah. So here's a 32-year-old instructor that is probably the best instructor we have in the department at the age of 32. I don't know if that's possible. So she's in command. Jordan Carey is in 101 yesterday morning, snapping a photo as I walk by the auditorium. These folks have disciples. They are mobbed as they walk around the building. And so the electricity is there. And so if you are an undergraduate and you're thinking about going to graduate school, think about coming to us. If you're an undergraduate currently and you have a year or two left, transfer to our university, please. And if you are in this room and you are a professor or a department chair or an administrator, and you're looking at these two people, you keep your fucking hands off of these people. They like it in Ellensburg. They are ours, and we are grateful. Okay, the geology department was selected to be featured by the university in the form of video by this woman. Her name is Linda Schockler. So she was the chief of staff at our school for a long time. And she said, well, I've got an idea for a new way to promote our university. And we're going to take the guy with the marshmallow-shaped head, and we're going to put him on camera, and we're going to make these PBS programs short form, and we're going to use Chris Smart, the guy in the white hair, who works at the university, and we're going to have him and Nick make some programs, and then we're going to distribute it across the Pacific Northwest. So it was Linda Schockler who had the idea for this PBS stuff. And so my job was to find interesting places, and all Linda wanted was visuals. Chris too. They wanted visuals, and they wanted a story that they could understand. And so I would pitch a bunch of ideas, and half of them didn't work because they couldn't see what I was talking about. Ginkgo logs, for instance, they didn't get it. But some of the episodes they could easily see, and they were ready to buy off on it. A common message from both of them is, I'm sure we don't have more than this season. I'm sure you are going to run out of ideas if we're just staying in Washington. And the answer is, I know you guys don't believe me, but there's like 100 easily episodes just in the state of Washington. And you guys know that, but it's hard to convince the rest of these folks that we have such rich geology with visuals as well. And so Chris and I made 24 of these episodes. This is the Nick on the Rocks series I'm talking about, over a 4-year span. Typically did it in the summertime. And Chris was excellent with the camera. He was even better with editing. He was not a geologist, and he was a little bit nervous being out in places that were a long way from a car. And so we were shooting a lot of episodes, within proximity of the road or something like that. So we made do with what we could do, and yes, we stamped our logo on it, Central, and that was what Seattle's channel used to be called, KCTS. And then Linda stepped in and made her agreements with Oregon Public Broadcasting and Idaho and Spokane Station. And so, yeah, it worked. Her vision was true. We're marketing to old people watching at home, but the old people have children, and they have grandchildren, and they have great-grandchildren. And so there has been some impact on our enrollment at CWU. And Linda and Chris in particular were thrilled that there were a couple of the episodes that were recognized. And so that was kind of the end of the mission for them, to get that kind of validation in their world. It honestly didn't mean as much to me, but yes, some Emmy Award nomination. And then everything stopped. The production of the whole thing stopped, and I flipped out. And so then I started teaching myself how to use this very phone in my backyard on the Larry the Ladder and start the YouTube thing, which is a totally different audience. And that was immediate. That was like a jolt. Thank you. That was a jolt of electricity, like in the moment. We weren't filming things and then having it air 9 months later. So I got addicted to this, and some of you, I think, were part of that community. I'm still doing some of that live community business. But I became less and less interested in this PBS stuff just because of the delay and the having to stay next to the parking lot and everything else. Well, the pandemic wore on. Linda retired. Chris retired. But Seattle PBS kept calling and saying, we keep hearing that people want more of this net on the ropes geology stuff. And I said, I just don't think I'm interested. I'm sorry. I've got this YouTube thing. I'm just really loving that. But they were persistent. And I finally got to a point where I said, look, the only way I will do more of these shows, if you can find some unicorn, some young outdoor kid who can hike, who can put everything, the drone, the cameras, the mics, everything in a backpack, and it's just the two of us out in the backcountry. That's what I want. I don't want to deal with a film crew or anything else, just me and this kid. And I never thought they'd find anybody. But they found him. And it's a kid from Carolina, North Carolina, Brady Lawrence, and he moved to Seattle right before the pandemic, and he has been a dream. So everybody that I'm featuring is 32 years old. This guy's 32 as well. They were all infants when I moved to Ellensburg, by the way. So this guy can do it all. And we meet in the field. We do a little bit of back and forth by email with scripts, but it's really not a script. There's just a few working ideas. And then he just kind of goes for it. And he flies his drone, and he has his videos. And as we start looking at these episodes, we'll continue to go back and forth, and we can talk about some of his techniques, which are particularly effective, I think. Yeah, he dresses me, and he puts the microphone on, and the whole thing. So this little team, it's just Brady and I, and it's really just Brady. It's Brady on the rocks, really, tonight. And he does all of this stuff, and we've done a full season, just he and I. And most recently, we've added another guy, Gary Paul, who had a long history with the Forest Service, and I met Gary online through this backyard live stream business, and he just kept sending me amazing photos. So Gary Paul can talk cameras with Brady, but he can talk geology with me. He went to geology. He went to University of Washington. So depending on the episode, it's the three of us or it's just the two of us out there in the field. So what am I debuting tonight? These did air this past winter, but I'm confident that most of you have not seen them. So I'm debuting 8 episodes, each of them 6 minutes long, and they were all filmed last summer, spring into fall. So here's the list, and this is what we're doing the rest of our time, okay? So first episode, Brady and I had just met. We met out at Othello. He has no idea where he is. He's never been in Eastern Washington before. And we filmed this in the last 4 hours of one Tuesday after I got done with 101 Lab in Ellensburg, and then the following sunrise until about noon on the day. Let's try it. Drumheller Channels, the first episode of the new team of Nick on the Rocks. So I don't know, have you been to Arizona before? The Grand Canyon, and these buttes, and this landscape that's carved by rivers? Colorado River, Grand Canyon. This is Central Washington. The bedrock is different, but there are elements of the desert Southwest here. But there's one important difference. These valleys don't have any rivers in them. This is an ideal place to learn about the channeled scablands. I mean, there it is. Basalt cliffs, channel, valley bottom, no water. Dry channels. Like, what's the story? It's an Ice Age flood story. And here's a map of Washington during the Ice Age. So during that Ice Age time, between 20,000 and 13,000 years ago, there were major floods of water pouring over the channels of eastern Washington. This place was hammered by water moving 60 miles an hour. Big blocks of ice floating at the top, icebergs, stones being tumbled along the base. And that hurricane of Ice Age floodwater hit this place repeatedly. So Drumheller Channels and Ice Age floods, if you're aware that these crazy floods came through here, maybe the first question is, why wouldn't the floods just skim right over the top of the bedrock, like if it was granite or metamorphic rock? And the key answer is, the basalt here is the bedrock. Look at this. These amazing columns, these amazing vertical cracks. These are big pencils that are stacked side by side. And so the water coming through here is going to hydraulically lift these columns up and out. And the resulting damage is almost at the snap of a finger. Columnar basalt, easy for the water to sweep away, plucking one after another. Drumheller Channels is a place where you can get the big scale and the small scale. And so here are the tops of these beautiful columns. This particular flow has columns that are only about 50 feet high, and there they are across the way as well. So these amazing cracks are kind of just right scale for us to get up on top, get down below, see across the way. And this is one of the best places to be able to put these missing columns back where they belong. Get those Ticonderoga pencils and get them back in the box. Get them all bunched together. We had that here once. We don't have them anymore. A bunch of them are gone. Ice Age floods did it. Undeveloped and preserved as the Columbia National Wildlife Refuge, the Drumheller Channels offer a sanctuary to many birds and mammals. Left largely untouched by the surrounding agriculture industry, walking through the channels is like traveling back in time. Walking in Drumheller Channels, it's exactly like it was in 1922, like 100 years ago. J. Harlan Bretz and his grad students walking on this landscape, the first geologist to actually study this place carefully, map every one of these buttes, basins, all these different bench levels with the Columnar River basalt. Now, what was the big message? Those papers in the 1920s said, the only way to make these landscapes is to have catastrophic floods of water, stripping away a lot of the basalt, stripping away the topsoil and leaving this bizarre landscape. It's still here 100 years later, waiting for you. Okay, I give that about a C minus. Yeah, thank you. And by the way, the doors are open for a reason, so if you've had enough, you head out, all right? We'll just stay with, as long as whoever wants to stick around. I do want to go back and forth, but that was rough, in my opinion, because there was no script. I was freelancing like crazy. We didn't talk much about the filming aspect. So we're going to be fine-tuning as we go through these 8 episodes. But a couple of quick questions about the filming or the film critic nature, please.
I think that was better than all of the ones you won the Emmys for.
Oh, thank you. The comment was, I think that was better than the ones you won the Emmy for. Well, thank you for that. Yes, it was a departure from the old format, and thank you for the comment. Yes?
My question is, do you like working off a script, or would you prefer to wing it?
Do I like working on the script, or do I like to wing it? I'm a winger man. I love to wing things, but as we'll see by the time we get to episode 3, Brady says, enough of this winging. I can't, the editing is a nightmare. You're just going all, like, so he says, we need a hook. We need to agree on the 3 blocks, at least the main message. So he's harnessing me in, and I'm happy to do that. Last comment before we go to the next one. I've learned, we'll go to one more. I've learned to keep my mouth shut. When you collaborate with somebody, especially an artistic person, you can just absolutely drive the partnership into the ground. If you're saying, I need you to do this, that person needs to feel as much, maybe more involved than me. And so a few of these I've only seen a couple of times because I just like, whatever you want to do is great with me. Yes, sir.
Have you stopped using a rock hammer?
I have, yes. So I love the part where there's a rock hammer and I'm banging away and all that. I think that's really active. But that's not necessarily a choice for the wildlife refuge or the fact that I lose hammers, but because Brady's not interested. He wants a little bit more fluidity. So there's all sorts of movement. That's the thing to look for in the next couple. There's all sorts of movement with him, and he wants it to flow as opposed to just being static stand-ups. Let's keep it going. On to the next episode. We'll just keep going with your thoughts. Also Eastern Washington, also foreign to Brady. This one didn't have a script either. This is Saddle Rock above Wenatchee, Washington. I have to say this last thing. 6 minutes seems like 6 hours when I'm standing up here. I hope it doesn't feel like that for you, but it feels like that for me. My thumb is on this thing. I want to just move on to the next thing, but we're showing these videos in their entirety. So 6-minute episode on Wenatchee's Saddle Rock. Wenatchee, Washington is down there on a perfect late spring evening. And this is Saddle Rock, a pinnacle of volcanic lava that looms above the Columbia River. There's more than Saddle Rock. There's many of these pinnacles that are 44 million years old. That's a new date from new research. What kind of rock is up here? What kind of volcano story can be told by studying Saddle Rock? Hint, it's older than the Cascade volcanoes. Okay, top of Saddle Rock. This is rhyolite, and rhyolite is very stiff lava. This is not the kind of volcanic rock that you typically see in the well-known Cascade volcano line, like Mount Rainier and Mount St. Helens. It's a pink volcanic rock with these little white chunks inside, little smoky quartz crystals. Well, this is very stiff, sticky lava. And so each of these pinnacles is a rhyolite dome, a squirt of very toothpaste-like magma that was part of a very explosive volcanic system. Saddle Rock, beautiful pinnacle. There's a whole family of these volcanic outcrops, including this one here. This is Wenatchee Dome, just like it sounds, a dome of lava. But there's a specific story about all of these outcrops. They tell the same story with age and chemistry. Let's look a little bit more carefully at this volcanic outcrop and try to put a story together. Saddle Rock, 44-million-year-old rhyolite. Wenatchee Dome, same stuff. Castle Rock, Black Thumb, Rooster Comb. If this is too old for the Cascades and it's rhyolite, what should we be visualizing for this area at that time? This. This is a welded tuff. It's the result of a pyroclastic flow, an ignimbrite, an ash flow tuff. Those phrases all mean the same thing. The most explosive, dangerous, ground-hugging hurricanes of ash, rock, gas, coming to rest, welding in place with a volcanic vent close by. This is much closer to a supervolcano story than it is a composite cone volcano. We're still trying to work out the details of if there's a supervolcano here, or where the vents are, or what the volcano actually looked like. But it's major progress to realize that all of these pinnacles at Wenatchee tell the same story. So yes, this is a volcano story, but no, this is not volcanoes standing on this landscape for 44 million years. Let's not get carried away. This is an underground story. So these pinnacles of rhyolite lava were actually underground, fingers of magma working their way up through soft sandstones. Some of them got to the surface and exploded violently. But these pinnacles are the result of eroding soft sandstone over the last 44 million years. And what's left standing? These fingers of frozen magma that today preside over Wenatchee, Washington. I think Jeff Tepper's in the crowd, and that 44 million-year-old date's from Jeff, and that was inspired by his work. That's another thing that I'm interested in my own things and interviewing geologists, and I'm into those concepts, and then my mind's there, so then we go to some episodes that reinforce what I've been working on. A few comments or questions about that. I think there's some things we can be unhappy with that episode. Let's hear it. Why no mention of the Columbia River basalts? It's a 6-minute episode. There's always a struggle, how to get stuff in. So how much of that 44 million-year-old volcanic story disappears underneath the Columbia River basalts, which are right there? Probably a bunch. And so it's this collaboration that I'm talking about again, and Brady, the kid, is like, I don't want to talk about that. That's too much. We're shoehorning too much in the episode. Yes?
So I would have liked to have heard a little bit about how it got to the surface, got raised, and then uplifted, and then how it got eroded away.
Thank you. Thank you. The comment is, would have liked to have heard more about uplift and getting that material to the surface. Sure. I wince when the animations come in. They're put in right at the end, and sometimes they detract, but I'm getting used to them. There's an animation coming in just a second.
Is that you playing the guitar?
No, thank you. That's not me playing the guitar. That's Brady with some tasteful, I don't know what that is, Appalachian type stuff he throws in, but each episode seems to have different music, which I like. Yes?
I appreciate the animations because for anyone who doesn't understand the field or is getting into it, that's a great way to help them visualize.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, the animations help to a general audience, and it pulls them in, maybe even children or something. I don't know, that's what I go to. But this is an interesting group. Can we say, you're not the target audience, I guess. Like, I don't know. It's supposed to be general, and so that's Brady's role, is to back me out of some rather deep stuff which isn't going to play in his mind. And if he can't see it, we just don't do it, and I don't fight it. One more? Yes? Oh, two more. Yeah, back there and then up here. Back there. Yeah. Oh, I'm Swiss, so am I really liking to freeform? Well, that's the Italian half of me. Yes.
I don't think the video of the welded tough, I think, was good.
Yes.
But it didn't, the link to the fingers of
Right.
didn't work.
Didn't work.
The story wasn't connected.
Thank you. The comment was going from the welded tough and the animation to then the fingers, pretty tough to tie those two concepts together. It didn't seem to work. I agree with you. This next one I'm proud of, so I'm not going to badmouth each of these. This next one is from a place called Moses Coulee. I have been thinking about the Ice Age floods a lot, and the Emmy Awards are coming up in a couple of weeks in Seattle, and this one was nominated for that. So let's see if you like this one. Have you heard of Moses Coulee here in eastern Washington? There's a little town here called Palisades, which means line of cliffs. And if we carefully study these... Sorry, we're going to play that again. So I got to point out, so this is the first episode where Brady is now taking over and say, we not only have a script, so he's saying, I've got you reeled in a little bit. Okay, I've got you in a box and I like it. Fine. But he also says, I want to do something called a do-si-do with you. And I'm like, I'm up for it. I don't know what you mean, though. Like the dance? He's like, yes. He says, you keep saying you want motion. You don't want to be standing. So this is the first time we have him moving and me moving around him. And this is pretty extreme. I don't think we do it quite this much. But most folks I don't think notice. But to get motion and flow, we're literally choreographing and rehearsing our steps before we start. And so look for this not only in this first episode, but episodes to come. This do-si-do move, maybe it's too much for you, but now that you know that's an intentional thing, maybe you'll enjoy it. Let's try it. Have you heard of Moses Coulee here in eastern Washington? There's a little town here called Palisades, which means line of cliffs. And if we carefully study these cliffs, we can tell a story of how this canyon was created. It's a tale of two canyons, one carved slowly before the Ice Age, and one carved quickly during the Ice Age. But both canyons are the same canyon. hanging valleys of Moses Coulee are really spectacular. That's a little V-shaped guy hanging way above the floor of Moses Coulee. Now, sometime you're in a glaciated scene, and the hanging valleys are little U's. This is a little V because there was a stream once upon a time that was flowing all the way, gradually down to the major floor of a V-shaped river valley. That was the story long ago with Moses Valley, a river canyon. Then the Ice Age floods happened tens of thousands of years ago, and a huge flood of Ice Age floodwater, maybe multiple floods, came through, sheared off the cliffs, and suddenly our gradual stream is now perched high and stranded 900 feet above the floor of today's Moses Coulee. Hanging valleys help us see the pre-glacial portion of this story. So the question is, what did Moses Coulee used to look like? And this is a river canyon just a few miles to the north, and it's probably a pretty good representation of what Moses Coulee used to look like. This is Rock Island Creek Valley. Notice that there's a V shape, and all the side streams are working their way gradually to the valley floor. There's no Ice Age flood history in here. This is a simple river valley from tectonic uplift gradually against these streams, both major and minor. This is what Moses Coulee used to look like. There was already a big valley where Moses Coulee is today. And the floods simply modified a V-shaped valley into a box-shaped valley, and that gets us our hanging valleys. So these aprons of talus in the walls of Moses Coulee are spectacular. And they are a function of the Ice Age floods. Before the Ice Age, these aprons of talus were not here. It was a gradual V all the way down to the bottom. But you get talus like this only when you get an absolutely sheer vertical cliff. And that sheer cliff was created by the floods, quickly. And then since the Ice Age floods, rock by rock, these angular pieces are tumbling down and decorating the lower half of the walls of Moses Coulee. These are post-Ice Age flood talus deposits, but there'd be no talus if we never had the Ice Age floods coming through. Well, you know, sometimes this geology thing is just observation and a little bit of logic thrown in. We've done that today with the hanging valleys and the V-shaped notches along the walls of Moses Coulee. We've also done it with the talus aprons along the sides. That was done a long time ago by geologists coming through here, and we still value those observations. The tale of two canyons, an older story, pre-Ice Age, and a younger story, Ice Age floods. Both stories are here in Moses Coulee. Comments, questions? Doors are open. I'm not kidding. You're not going to hurt me. I'm not going to yell at you if you leave. Yes?
Does Brady do the editing also?
Brady does the editing as well. So he's a procrastinator. So we did all 8 of these episodes, and then he waited until Thanksgiving to start editing them. They were all due New Year's Eve. So it was so much effort in December that he's thinking he might try to talk his friend into doing some of the editing next year. Yes?
Your timing is getting even better with this last one.
Thank you. The timing of what?
It's getting even better.
Okay, thank you. The comment is the timing is getting even better with this one. I don't know why, well, more comments from you. Yes, please.
I would have to say, since you asked, that I like the camera moving, showing the scenery.
Yes.
I like you standing still.
Okay.
I almost got car sick.
Yeah. Hey. The do-si-do is a little much on a bigger screen like this, especially. Yes, thank you for that.
I'm thinking about a general audience now, since you pointed out.
Yes.
You've mentioned already the Ice Age floods.
Right.
The average person watching this might not know much about what caused the Ice Age floods.
Yes.
I'm wondering, have you done an episode maybe in the previous incarnation that described that, or do you plan to? Because I can see with value that, assuming people watch it in order, that and maybe the Columbia River Salt floods, because I presume you'll be mentioning that. Did you think about that, or was there a reason that you didn't do that?
Thanks for the question. The question is basically, there's not a whole lot of context for the Ice Age floods. It's a general audience. Are they going to know what you're talking about? Did the water come from Missoula or wherever? I used to think like you did. And then I realized that, first of all, we all consume things just so chaotically that we never watch things typically in order. So I don't have thoughts of doing 4 more episodes to build off of that or vice versa. And 2, again, the goal of this is to highlight a place. I continue to hear from viewers, again, it's a general audience, they're just checklist people. They're like, honey, we got to go, where is that? Google that. Google Moses Coulee, let's drive up that. And that's the satisfaction. So yes, of course, we want to tie it to bigger things, and I do have other things online that provide more context, so I feel comfortable with it being kind of by itself. Yes?
So have you considered using closed captioning?
Right now, I'm sorry there's not closed captioning. I believe they are programmed when they're broadcast on television to have closed captioning, but I can do better with closed captioning on YouTube. I typically overlook that and haven't really learned how to do that myself, so I need to work on that. Yes?
I had the same feeling that he did about the glaciers, and I think that the general audience could get the impression that there were glaciers right there around Moses Valley.
Okay. The comment is it's maybe a little bit out of context and maybe getting the impression that ice is right there at Moses Coulee. It's not far away, it turns out, upstream, but yes, right there at that spot. It's an adjustment to see a program where you're not trying to give a 3-dimensional geologic lesson because of the time constraints and the goals of the series. Thank you for this feedback. This is fun for me. How about 2 more? Yes? Thank you, Harvey. Yeah, the comment was that animation was helpful because the hanging valleys catch many of our eyes, and it doesn't work for most people. Even if you use words to describe what the hanging valley is, it doesn't quite translate. And so, yeah, just those few seconds. That's not Brady doing the animation, and he didn't really trust the animator until that episode. And then he's like, I like her. I like what she did in that one. So Brady agrees with you. Here's the last one from this episode. Thank you.
Have you considered just having like a map of glaciers and blocks you can outline with star on it at the very beginning so kind of visualize everything?
Thank you. I'm laughing because these are all things that have come up in these discussions. In the old version of Nick on the Rocks, I said exactly what you said. And so there was a little map of Washington and a little star that was pulsating or something. Same idea, though. We're just introducing a place. We assume they can find it on Google Maps, and We try not to clutter, but again, that's all to Brady. In fact, I'm not even sure I've mentioned that to Brady. Let's keep it, we got one more, and then we'll keep it going.
What's the difference between scree and talus?
Scree and talus, I don't know, what do you think? Yeah. I think I said there's no talus before the Ice Age, that's wrong. Yeah. One more, yeah.
So as a professor at Central, I'm not sure how long you've been doing Dig on the Rocks, but I'm just curious if you've noticed this program kind of bringing a renewed interest in the geological sciences, especially in Washington, especially with your students. I'm from Eastern Washington, and we're big fans. A lot of us have followed your programs and have helped us actually get through a lot of our classes. So I don't know if you've noticed this has kind of like helped kind of revitalize that, especially with incoming future geologists.
Thank you. The question is, has this or the YouTube stuff, have I seen people become revitalized with their interest in geology and so on? The short answer is yes, and people are coming to our school as freshmen to study geology, and that wasn't happening before. Most of us all found geology stumbling around in college and found it at some point, but it's different now, so that visibility has been really nice. Let's keep going. What's next? The Big Four Mountain, which is unknown to most people. We maybe did need a map for this one, ma'am, but this is now Gary Paul, the Forest Service guy, is saying, I've got 4 shows you guys need to do, and you can stay at my condo in Darrington and at the base of Baker, and we're going to knock out 4 episodes in a week and a half. It's like, sounds good. So this is the first of 4 that were done with Gary Paul. Big Four Mountain. There's a basic rule in Geology 101. If you have sedimentary rock layers, they are created horizontally, always, around the world, like in the Grand Canyon, and like here at Big Four Mountain. But if you start following those horizontal layers here to another cliff, those horizontal layers are now vertical, and something happened starting 51 million years ago to rotate these sedimentary layers to such an extreme position. What happened here? The sedimentary layers here involve a river and involve sand. I mean, this is river sand. We all know what sand is, but this is not beach sand, this is river sand. And these sand grains are all about the same size, but they're not the same mineral type. They're salt and pepper sand. And so therefore, the sandstones deposited horizontally before the Cascade Mountains even developed, between 59 and 51 million years ago, with rivers flowing from the northeast and flowing to the ocean, are these beautiful arcosic sandstones. This is normal sand deposition. A deep sandbox stretching from Bellingham over to Ellensburg before the Cascade Mountains grew. No big chunks, normal, horizontal, fine sand. Okay, river deposition, river sand making sandstone, we're good. But there's also sedimentary rock here that looks like this. And it's rock. It's a conglomerate. And each of these beautiful stones is rounded, and they're made out of a rock called chert. White and black chert river cobbles. That means that a river was suddenly more energetic, faster water, higher energy. And better than that, the rivers that deposited these grains were flowing towards the east, coming away from the coast. Something caused these rivers to change their direction. Flowing west before 51 million years ago, the rivers are suddenly flowing to the east younger than 51 million years ago. And the evidence is there's exposed chert beds, black and white, just to the west of here. So these stones in this conglomerate tell us that the rivers flipped their direction 51 million years ago, increased their energy level, and by the way, at the same time, the chert beds are rotating to the 90-degree position. What's causing all this strangeness in these local sedimentary basins? So here's the answer. Before 51 million years ago, out in the water, off the coast of Washington, was a huge island called Silesia. Bigger than Iceland, but similar, with basalt lava erupting. North America collided with Silesia starting 51 million years ago, causing the rivers to change their direction, causing chert cobbles to flow away from the impact site, and the result is inclined sedimentary beds at Big Four Mountain in northwestern Washington. Yeah, I don't know if that one worked. Comments from you, over on the side.
I want a map.
You want a map? Okay, we're getting a theme here. Yeah.
It worked for me.
It worked for you. Can you be specific?
Yes, just the visualization of the
You love Silesia. Yeah, the visualization of rotating those beds. We had kind of a bad weather day, so I was hoping those beds would show a little better. Thank you. Yes.
I don't think any geologist in here could have said accretion of Silesia in so few words, with such strong evidence. That was very impressive.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, thank you. The comment is that it was succinct, and to take a huge event like Silesia accretion and just tying it to some beds in the middle of God knows where, a mountain loop highway. Thank you. Yes. Thank you. Thank you for the comment. I think as we're watching these, I'm getting better at finding a hook. Well, that's all Brady. So that's him saying, we need a hook where it's right before the credits, and we need to set it. So I think I've written those hooks, but he really steered me hard. And we didn't have those hooks the first couple times. Thank you for that comment. Couple more. Yes? Thank you for the questions. First one is, how does PBS market 6-minute videos? Well, the 6-minute video form exists at least in Seattle PBS because they had this idea 5-6 years ago, so that gal Linda was on it. They wanted locally produced videos that they would air right before the top of the hour, so they can cram them into wherever before the beginning of Masterpiece Theater or something. And of course, all the feedback is that they're great. They need to be longer. They need to be a half an hour. They need to be an hour. But I don't have the time or the interest, so I'm happy with this short form right now. I don't think they're doing much publicity, to be honest. But there is a big audience, and there's casual comments about it's outperforming such and such at some hour, but it's meaningless to me. They seem to like it, and they wanted another season, so that's fine. I have been approached a little bit about bigger projects, but I like where I am. I like Ellensburg. And the farther I get out of the Northwest, the less confident I am, and there's no shortage of stuff here in the Northwest. So I'm hoping just to stay here for quite a while. That's enough. I'm sorry, one more.
Thanks for coming here. It's great having you do this talk.
Thank you.
I really like that you presented all these different clues with a single answer at the end. I really like the structure of the episode.
Thank you. Thank you. The comment is liking that there's some sort of conclusion at the end. We have a couple of clues, and then we kind of wrap it up somehow. Yeah, that's the goal, and sometimes there's more of a bang than others. Let's move on. We have 4 more to go out. I want to keep it going. This is still hanging out with Backcountry Gary, and we now have multiple colored shirts for different episodes, and we're getting confused because we're filming a part of one episode in the morning and another episode in the evening, and I've got different shirts in my pack, but we're getting away from the road now. We're getting into some high country, and so we're now with a 60-pound pack, Brady lugging everything, and some of us are carrying other things. So we could not get on Mount Shuksan. It's steep if you're a mountaineer. So we have some opening shots of Shuksan, and then Gary said we're going to go to another mountain to look at some of that green schist. Let's do it. This is up by Mount Baker. And Brady's now in full flower, involving drone work and things of that nature. He was in top form here, in my opinion, the next couple of episodes. If you've ever skied here at Mount Baker ski area, I think you probably know that mountain. But it's not Mount Baker. It's not a volcano. This is Mount Shuksan, made of green metamorphic rock, an entire mountain made out of this stuff. And the origin of those metamorphic rocks? The bottom of the ocean. At over 9,000 feet of elevation, Mount Shuksan is the 8th largest peak in Washington and one of the most stunning. The mountain is blanketed by massive glaciers with deep crevasses that make it difficult to access. So, to get a closer look at the unique green rock that Shuksan is made of, we're heading south to Darrington and the non-glaciated White Chuck Mountain. So what is this rock that was from the ocean floor? I mean, this is White Chuck Mountain, and the whole mountain's made out of this stuff. And here it is over here, too. I mean, basalt is on the ocean floor, brown lava rock, but this is not brown, and this is not lava rock anymore. The basalt, igneous, has been slowly transformed into a metamorphic rock called greenschist. There's a texture here. Can you see that this greenschist has been smushed and flattened? That's because the original brown basalt lava that slowly started to dive beneath North America 160 million years ago during the age of the dinosaurs. The pressure increased and green metamorphic minerals started to form. That's why the rock is green. And the minerals that formed under those high pressure conditions, actinolite, chlorite, epidote, are on display in this pistachio-colored rock. Greenschist, no longer in the ocean. yes, this talus field is stunning with these huge blocks of green schist. And yes, it's almost impossible to believe that green metamorphic rocks formed 20 miles below are now up here in the Washington Mountains, a mile above sea level. Isn't the question is, how is that possible? How are you going to do that journey? How are you going to lift a geologic elevator that far? How much time does that take? We're still working on it. Geologists have been working in the North Cascades for a century, have tried to figure that out. Plate tectonics continue to evolve. The geologic community will continue to work on those problems. But in the meantime, scenery and places like this are here for you to enjoy at White Chuck Mountain and Mount Shuksan up by Mount Baker. Too open-ended, 6 minutes. I mean, give me something. Why did I spend 6 minutes listening to the guy say they don't know? That one didn't have a conclusion. Comments? A bunch of hands in the middle there, yes. Yes. Thank you. The comment is liking the fact that it is kind of open-ended and not heavy-handed and kind of curious. And that does draw people in, for sure. Thank you. Another couple more hands just in that section. Oh, yes, thank you. So the comment was similar that it's nice to say we don't know. Many folks outside of our world don't realize how much uncertainty is there. We are making progress, but this episode definitely leaned into that a fair amount. Yes?
Did you consider the Twin Sisters Dunite when you were looking in that area?
That's on Gary's list for the future episode. The Twin Sisters Dunite is a spectacular spot, so we're saving that for another episode. Thank you. Yes? Oh man, these hokas are so ugly. I got feet problems, man, so my feet were killing me after the first 2 episodes. I'm like, what the? And then I changed into my hokas and my feet were fine. So I got these clunky looking dorky shoes, but no, that's it. Those are my hiking shoes now. I need to find something better. Yes? Oh, yeah. Right, right. So the comment is maybe it would have been helpful to have an animation and show subduction and then have some idea about getting that material back up to the surface. That is a huge question. So yeah, maybe again, the hook didn't quite match with the little wimpy, little drizzly end there. This next one, I'm pleased with visually. Desiree and Emily, you need to be nice to me now, okay? I didn't know your work before I did this one. This is from Mount Baker Volcano, and these are our 2 star graduate students who are defending, and they'll be doing posters Friday morning? Talks Friday morning. So, Mount Baker Volcano is in the wheelhouse now of Central among Western and other folks. Let's give this one a try. Mount Baker Volcano in northwestern Washington. Beautiful cone. But here under glacial ice, there has been intense erosion to reveal older volcano stories. A volcano graveyard in the Mount Baker volcanic field, including a newly discovered caldera, where a volcanic explosion on the scale of Crater Lake and even Yellowstone happened here more than 1 million years ago. hiking up on the Table Mountain Trail. I mean, come on now. That's about as iconic as it gets, right? A Cascade volcano, Mount Baker, with glacial ice flowing down its flanks, and beneath that ice, lavas and ash layers that make us realize that Mount Baker is only 40,000 years old. That's a baby compared to Mount Rainier, which is 500,000 years old. So the deep geologic history here, the volcanic history in this area, is mostly beneath that cone, not the cone itself, starting with Table Mountain itself. Mount Baker Highway on the way up to Artist Point, Heather Meadows, very popular drive. And there's a stack of 4 lava flows along the way, along the drive. And they're gorgeous with these columns. Did these lavas erupt out of Mount Baker volcano? No. Because these andesite lavas are 300,000 years old. It's way too old for the cone itself. So the columns are spectacular. The crystals inside of the Table Mountain andesite lavas are also spectacular, beautiful. Fluid but stiff lavas, cooling, cracking, long before Mount Baker volcano decided to make its appearance, starting 40,000 years ago. Deep beneath Mount Baker volcano, there's more history. Our oldest story. An incredible pile of ash, pyroclastic flow, large broken blocks from an incredible explosion, a volcanic explosion 1.15 million years ago, creating an incredible crater, a big one, called the Coulee caldera. So much of that material ejected up into the sky fell back into the caldera. And that's what we see down there. Rhyolite, andesite, broken block, pyroclastic flows. The idea is we have 3 distinctly different chapters of this volcanic history in the Mount Baker area. That earliest chapter was on par with the scale of Crater Lake in southern Oregon. A crater that's 5 miles wide, but on top of that, 300,000-year-old andesite lava flow cooling into the columns. And then finally, the cherry on the top, a relatively young Mount Baker cone-shaped volcano that got its start 40,000 years ago. Thank you. Comments? Questions? Yes? Well, you're going to be in my head for the rest of the... Thank you, Robin. Comment was, what was the first comment again? The drone shots. To me, those drone shots are outstanding. And to have the little tiny person in there and have him fly over, that's good stuff. And then the part where I'm smiling occasionally, like I just saw a dog did a beautiful trick in the living room floor. Yeah, I mean, you're looking into a camera lens. It's kind of weird, but if you have practice, you're really looking at people through the lens. And so it's an attempt to make it as human as possible. More, yes?
I love
Oh, God, does it? I like how the rock camera makes it. Thank you for that. Yeah, looking carefully now. Yeah, I'm getting sick of hearing me and looking at me, but yeah, you're picking up these little themes that are showing up in every episode, like the rock hammer showing up in every episode and sometimes matching the shirt. Couple more. Yes?
I thought that it was pretty beneficial mentioning in video number 5,
Yes.
metamorphic rock type of Greenschist, igneous rock type of basalt. That definitely helps folks that are not in geology understand what you're talking about, because they most likely have known your similar types of rocks. So
Yes. Thank you. You like that I'm mentioning on purpose igneous and sedimentary and metamorphic in addition to a specific rock name. So for a general audience, it kind of works.
insight basalt and rhyolite,
Yeah.
but someone else may not understand that. So
Yeah.
that was a nice testing of it.
Thank you. Yeah, the word choice is sometimes just kind of natural, but you're not thinking, I'm not typically thinking of a specific audience. I'm just kind of thinking of my mom, I guess, or something. Like just, I guess I am. I'm thinking of my mom, looking into the camera. A couple more, and then we've got 2 more to go. Yes?
I'm glad you don't have wildfire shots in all of them. I'm getting tired of wildfire.
Larry Smith from Butte, Montana is happy that there aren't flowers in every episode. Yeah, man, I like it. Thank you. Anti-flower. Yes?
I appreciate the appreciation for the macro structure and then the micro structure.
Oh,
You show crystalline structures in the rocks as well as talking about what they look like otherwise.
thank you for that. That is intentional. So the comment is he likes that there's macro and micro in each episode. That is intentional. So the few things that we're trying to do in every episode is the movement deal, whether it's too much or not. The movement instead of just standing. And then yes, not just having broad vistas for 5 minutes, but changing the scale, and it's on purpose. Like we're literally saying, so what is the small stuff we're doing in this episode? So great job picking up on that. Yes?
So now that these are scripted,
Yeah.
do you have to do retakes of some of these when you're up in the mountains, or are these all single takes?
Thanks. The question is, now that they're scripted, do I have to do retakes, or do I even have to come back and do it again later? It's scripted to the point where we've agreed what the 3 blocks are and what the hook is. And as Brady's setting up the cameras, depending on the block, I just start rehearsing and walk around like an idiot, like muttering to myself and try different things. And then there's usually 5 or 6 takes for one shot. And usually one of those works. Sometimes he screws up and sometimes I screw up with my mouth. But yeah, we know that we're just out there one time. Last comment there, Brady insisted that it's the last 4 hours of a day, and then we find the nearest hotel, and then the first 4 hours of the next morning. So that to me was a revelation. That wasn't done earlier. So we are rarely shooting at the high sun midday, except for this one coming because that was a full backcountry hike. But generally the light is low, and I'm seeing places that I thought that I knew totally differently because we're out, as you all know. If you're out late in the day or early in the morning, the light is gorgeous. And so he wants that light. Yes?
I really appreciate how you avoid jargon. We love words. Geology has great words, and you seem to resist the temptation, which I think really helps people feeling they're being talked down to by an expert.
Yes.
They're spouting all this stuff they don't understand.
Thank you.
That must be hard.
For me, it's not hard. The comment is nice that I'm not using all of our jargon and I'm not talking down to the audience. I've taught 101 my whole career, and so I have a lot of practice staying away from the jargon on purpose. So it's old hat to me at this point. One more before we go on to our last couple. Yes?
Will we ever see a bloopers reel?
The question is, will you ever see a bloopers reel? I'm sure there's no shortage of that footage, but seems a little self-indulgent to do that, to be honest. Okay, let's do this. This episode is special because Daryl Cowan and my wife Liz spent a day doing this hike up at Aster Butte the previous summer, and it was such a magical experience that we then went back with Gary and Brady to do this. And this was in the wilderness area, so we couldn't fly the drone. And we had to have Orlando from the Forest Service with us, monitoring us, making sure we weren't breaking the rules. And I literally could not stand on this little, okay, I couldn't stand where I wanted to stand. So I was like hanging over the rock, pointing this thing out. Whatever, he had a job to do. Okay, so yellow aster gneiss. People seem to like this one. I'm kind of surprised if it's the backcountry part of it, or if it's the rock itself, or the little animation. I guess we'll see what you think. Yellow aster gneiss. Also, this is the fourth of the 4 videos that we shot around Mount Baker in that week and a half. So here's a question for you. Can you think of the oldest bedrock in the North Cascades of Washington? What's your guess? Is it the granite of Washington Pass or the sandstones of the Methow Valley? Maybe the Greenschist of Mount Shuksan? No, it's right here at Yellow Aster Butte. Beautiful metamorphic gneiss, 400 million years old, and it came from Northern Europe. Full day of hiking today. Yellow Aster Butte hiking trail and Mount Baker Volcano. I mean, it doesn't get much better than this, and this is classic Cascade scenery. However, instead of the young lavas that bury mostly everything, Yellow Aster Butte is not a volcanic story. It's 400 million year old metamorphic rock that should be way down deep underneath the Cascade lavas, but it has been lifted and eroded above. So this is a rare chance for us to see some of the oldest stories in all the Pacific Northwest. I think we should head over there on foot, take a look at some of that metamorphic gneiss. Now this is a good looking rock, and it's not just this boulder. There's a whole mountain of this stuff. The Yellow Aster gneiss. It's metamorphic. Metamorphic rocks used to be a different kind of rock originally. And so all these swirls, all these quartz veins, it's all this high temperature and pressure look was not there originally when this metamorphic rock used to be a sandstone. The sandstone was not in North America. It was in Northern Europe. And the evidence for that is that deep inside of this gneiss are tiny zircon crystals, more than 400 million years old. And the zircons in this Yellow Aster gneiss match beautifully with more 400 million year old zircons in Northern Europe. How in the world are we taking a whole mountain full of this stuff and having it leave one continent and get to us here in North America? We're so far back in time that the details of the voyage of the Yellow Aster gneiss will probably never be totally determined. However, we know the gneiss used to be part of Europe 400 million years ago. We know the gneiss arrived in North America 100 million years ago. There is a journey, and it was probably through the old Arctic Ocean, squeezing this block of Yellow Aster gneiss between North America and Asia, get it parked here in the Pacific Northwest about 100 million years ago. Wow. that's an unbelievable geologic story, almost as unbelievable as the scenery here. Hiking on this sidewalk in the sky and going into the Mount Baker Wilderness area. This special bedrock is here, it's protected, and it's waiting for you to enjoy. Well, it sounds like you like that one. What do you like about that one?
It shows the purpose. You have those 6 minutes to show somebody something, please tell, make them want to go there,
Yes,
teach them something.
yes.
And you just did that.
Thank you. Yeah, the comment was that in a 6-minute time frame, you're introducing a new concept, a new place, and it's all wrapped up involving a very large journey of a block of crust that big. Thank you for that. Yes, way in the back. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Thank you. Yeah, the train of thought, easy to follow, even though it's a wild story. I was deeply into the exotic terrain stuff for a while, and there were so many stories that were difficult for everyone to visualize. But that one, the detail, again, the small and the big, that's small, and then we're traveling around the world. Yes, you've got it.
I think it would be cool if, like, there's so much you mentioned, like, people looking at their checklist, or maybe also that it's, like, easier to people who want to go someplace,
Yeah.
especially the backcountry ones, as you mentioned in the credits, like the hiking trails that you were on. People can go find it.
Thank you. To add to for the checklist people, maybe add in the credits the trail we were on or something of that nature. That's a good idea. How about a few more? Yes.
I'm actually kind of the opposite of that. I like what you had to say about the uniqueness of the place,
Yes.
but to me this felt more like a travel episode than a geology episode.
Okay. And not enough geology.
Not enough geology,
I hear you.
too much travel.
Got it. Thank you.
Just some appreciation for like the videography, like the mitigation of not being able to use the drone,
Yeah.
capturing them on it, and then just getting a good image of what the nights actually looks like and how you can tell where the things are or everything like that. It was really good.
Thank you. It was appreciation for Brady and his skill. He was running with that camera. So there's no drone, so he's like running full tilt to get that motion. I was like, yeah, I mean, he hasn't fallen yet. I don't know why. Yes. Yes, sir. Larry, I apologize. I apologize, Larry. Yeah. That's all right. How did the flowers get into that one? We'll have to see. I don't think we're too late in the season for flowers in this last one, Larry, so you're good. Yes.
I have 2 things.
Sure.
A comment and a question. My comment, I really like the way that you balanced from the first video to these ones, the balance between how much you're talking and how much of the video is out on the scenery. I think in the beginning there was longer periods of both, but now it's balancing those really well.
Thank you. Let me hold you up. So the first comment is liking that there's growing, there's more videography, less standing and talking, and the balance feels a little bit better. It kind of works back and forth. Thank you for that. And one more, Kylie.
And then I'm curious because you are going to so many different locations.
Yeah.
How long are you preparing beforehand to get all of the information and making sure that it is in lay terms?
Thank you. The other question is, how much time am I preparing for these and getting it down to lay terms, and basically, how long am I taking to prepare for these? I really enjoy making programs on YouTube, and I have themes that I'm working on, and I interview geologists, and so these are easy for me to do because I've already been kind of working on all this material. So it's truly just a few emails back and forth with Brady, and then we pick a time to meet, and where are we meeting, what truck stop, and then we just go. So they're pretty easy for me. to prepare for. They don't take a lot of time. And if there was a bigger crew or a lot more expected of me, it wouldn't be as fun. So yeah, it's pretty natural. I want to thank you all for coming tonight. I really mean that. So nice after such a long day. And I'm going to show this last episode to you, and then we'll just say goodbye to each other. But I'll be here as long as you want after this, and also I'll be here all tomorrow and Friday. So I hope I get a chance to visit with whomever wants to visit. So thank you so much for coming. This last episode was filmed right before the snow flew. We had to get one more filmed before wintertime, and I was already starting to think about the Ice Age floods, and so I thought, why don't we go up to the Mansfield area on the Waterville Plateau? Let's do it. It's late fall. The golden wheat fields of the Waterville Plateau in northern Washington, just like the plains of West Texas. And yet, boulders like these, thousands and thousands of haystack rocks, as they're known locally, are made out of basalt lava. There has to be a story to these boulders, right? There is. It's a 17,000-year-old story involving ice. So how are you supposed to make a living growing wheat if you have these incredible haystack rocks out in your fields? They're too big to move. Well, the farming has been done here for more than a century around the haystack rocks. So the boulders haven't been moved by the farmers, but the boulders themselves were moved. They were carried by the Canadian ice sheet. 17,000 years ago, the ice sheet crossed the border from the north. The ice sheet was at least 2,000 feet thick right here. And these boulders were picked up over by the Columbia River, north of here, just a few miles. And the cliffs of that Columbia Gorge were made out of basalt lava rock. The ice sheet picked up pieces of the basalt, carried them a few miles, and set them here. It's almost like these haystack rocks have been carefully laid down on a string and plopped right here. To confirm our story, to make sure it's an ice sheet story and not an ice age flood story or some other kind of story, let's look carefully underneath Jaeger Rock to look for specific evidence. This is Jaeger Rock, and this is Glacial Till, the key to the whole story. This deposit, it's almost like a nest underneath Jaeger Rock. And the deposit itself has a sandy matrix to it, this kind of gray stuff. But there's rocks within this that are kind of polished, angular to subrounded. Most of them are basaltic in nature. There's no layering, there's no organization to this stuff. This is poorly sorted rock in glacial till. If you go to Antarctica today or Greenland today, you'll find glacial till like this being deposited during our lifetime. So here on the plateau, it's 17,000-year-old glacial till. The ice is gone, but the evidence remains that the ice sheet was right here near Mansfield, Washington. Haystack rocks, glacial till, okay, yeah. But the most famous and beautiful features is also a glacial deposit here on the plateau, the Withrow Moraine, an incredibly delicate linear ridge composed of glacial till and haystack boulders. And to the south of the moraine, there are no boulders. The ice never got the southern half of the Waterville Plateau, but north of the moraine, boulders everywhere. So the moraine shows us the precise southern margin of the Canadian ice sheet. 17,000 years ago, from the moraine north, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 feet of ice. But south of the moraine, no ice history at all. The moraine, the haystack rocks of the Waterville Plateau, a 17,000-year-old record of ice in Washington State. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night. Well, enjoy the conference. Appreciate it. Goodbye. Thank you for coming.